rebuilding after divorce or separation is freaking hard, man. I did 13 years with this person, created some amazing kids, and you reach a point where you realize it's just not meant to be anymore. And you have to come to terms with reality that you have to rebuild and you have to create a new life after this. And you're scared because you don't know what it looks like. Some folks fall into the bottle. Some folks, unfortunately, end their lives. It's tough, man. If you're going through that or have gone through that, I feel you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the Legacy Builders podcast, where we're redefining generational wealth one story at a time. I'm your host, Mario Gonzalez Jr., and today I want to talk about separation and divorce. It happens. I don't know what the stats are. I feel like last time I looked, it was 50 to 60%, somewhere along there, which is crazy because back when I grew up, things were traditional. And the idea or philosophy is you marry somebody, you stick with that person through thick and thin, and you just work the shit out, even if you're not meant for each other, which I don't think is healthy. That's not what I'm saying. It's just times have really, really changed. So going through my story, and I won't go into the details and share personal stuff, but we were together for 13 years, had two amazing kids. We had our time. And towards the end, I'd say the last 3 to 4 years, there was just writing on the wall for one reason or the other. Nobody's perfect. One of us wanted to work on it more than the other. And we just hit a point and we knew that it was over. Once that point actually hit, it became a challenge to stay sober, if I'm being honest. It became a challenge to be really present with my kids and not let them see the pain and the fear that's going on inside me. There'd be times where I'd hang out with them and I'd be like just internally trying to hold back tears and wanting to tell them what was going on. And you just can't, because it's something that you've never experienced before. It's something that you don't want them to experience. But kids are smart. They're resilient. They can see the writing on the wall. I think they knew what was going on before I told them, I remember before we officially split and I knew it was coming and we were just in a really bad place, I would go get a 6-pack. I go through 3 to 4 strong IPAs every night. I couldn't sleep. I ended up finding a group called F3. It's a group of guys who work out every morning at 5:15. I was trying to find community because I didn't have any friends. I've been so focused on working on the business and trying to pay the bills and keep the family together that I didn't have time to socialize or to make friends. Plus, on top of that, we moved to a different state and then having no family out here. So when I did call my family, I was crying and bawling my eyes out because I didn't know what to do. Then after the divorce, it got worse. I always made sure, though, that I was there with my kids every single time. But that doesn't take away from the fact that depression hits and, I was sipping the bottle. I did continue to work out. I would go to the gym all the time. But at a certain point, I was going to a divorce support group, and that group really, really helped because I got to sit and talk with folks from different walks of life who had different experiences with divorce and separation. Some were going through it. Some had come out on the tail end. The organizer is a really good dude and super knowledgeable, and he's coached a lot of people through a lot of different things, and really grateful for that group. I started going to different types of singles groups, not to hook up or date. That was the furthest thing on my mind. And some days that still is the furthest thing on my mind. I'm still in a healing process, But it got to a point where those groups that I was hanging around with, all they wanted to do all the time was drink. I like to be physically active, and there was a little bit of that, but it just a lot of the times didn't really seem like the right fit for me. You know, Can never really find anybody who has gone through my same experience with owning a business with the ex and then having kids. And a lot of the times it was one thing or the other. And then as an adult, it's harder to make friends. You don't just click with everybody. Folks grow up, and especially if you've been in a state like you have your clique, you have your crew. And then on top of that, as an adult, not only do you and that adult have to click, that adult, if they have kids, those kids have to click too. So that made things a lot tougher. I've also never really been a super religious guy. My early life, I really was. Now I believe that there's something out there bigger than myself. But for me, praying, it just didn't make sense. It's also been extremely hard for me to ask for help. Picking up the phone and calling my family and friends, that was hard, man. Actually asking for people to help me with my kids or help me in the business or just listen to me talk was hard. I don't know if it's just because of the type of person that I am. I don't know if it's because maybe I was ashamed or I was afraid that I would sound like a failure, but it was just hard. I also experienced a childhood where alcohol was very present, and I always told myself I didn't want to be an alcoholic. And I came to a realization that I was going in that direction. I didn't want my kids to see that. And so I made the conscious effort to stop, not completely, but I told myself that if I was going to go to the bar, I'm going to go to the pull-up bar at the gym. And it wasn't easy, but I would work out early morning, about 10 o'clock, like I normally did. And then in the evening, when I was itching for a beer or a drink, I would march my ass to the gym and get another workout in. And it worked. And it got easier. You go through phases where you start reminiscing and you're like, man, what could I have done different? Is there anything I could have said or done to keep the family together? Oh, that's another one, is just this like fear and uncertainty of like another guy in your kids' lives. That one hurt me deep. Yes, being apart from the person I was with for 13 years and building a life with was hard, but the idea that I wasn't going to be able to be with my kids every day, and then on top of that, another man was going to be introduced into their lives, that was a horrible feeling because I love being a dad. I love doing things with my kids. I love sharing all those first moments. And the idea of somebody else sharing moments with them, just it tore me apart. So fast forward, I started doing the groups, finding F3, working out, not drinking as much, only socially. Time goes on. We lived together for a period of time. after separation and officially being divorced because we couldn't afford to buy our own places with the money that we were generating from the business. So that made it harder, like seeing my ex-spouse in the house all the time when we're trying to move on and build different lives was tough. And then finally, we sold the house, which took a lot of convincing and a lot of effort, moved into our own spaces. And then once I moved into my own space, I officially felt like I could breathe and just be. And it's been about 4 months now. We're not walking on eggshells every time we go into the marital home anymore. The kids are fine. The kids adapted. I did make sure that when it made sense, like I would talk to them about how mom and dad are not going to be together anymore. So it was more of a slow crawl than us ripping the Band-Aid and be like, hey, we're done. We're in separate houses now. And part of that was because it just kind of had to be that way because money's a huge factor. And again, man, 4 months later, things have been a lot easier. We're actually better co-parents. Some would argue that we're good friends now. We get along now. Of course, I think with anybody and their ex-spouse, still find each other irritating because those habits who make you who you are, they don't go away. You still are who you are. But if I could give anybody a takeaway who's listening to this, it freaking sucks, man, but it does get better. Find a support group. Find people to talk to. As much as you want to bottle that shit and keep it inside, it's not healthy for you. Find an outlet. The bottom of a bottle is not an outlet, or not a healthy one at least. Yes, it's going to numb the pain, but it's just going to pull you into a deeper depression in a place you don't want to be. Go biking, join a gym, yoga, fishing, hunting, whatever it is, and just get lost in that. But don't forget about your kids and other folks who depend on you or rely on you. I think for a lot of folks, that's hard because your mind is so wrapped up on this thing that's happening in your life and a life that you've known for a long time. It's hard to break out of that mindset, you know? But it does get better. Just take it one day at a time and continue to work on yourself, not only for you, but for your family. Show up for the people that showed up for you. Thanks for listening to this episode. It's a tough thing to talk about, but I know that there are folks out there who have lived it and don't get the opportunity to listen to other people's stories, and listening to stories, it can help, especially for those that have made it out on the other side. So until the next one, folks, talk to you later.